Hey, it's Emily Souter with Nesting Space LLC here, and today I want to talk with you about birth stories. And this goes back to, well, even when my son was born, but the project that I want to talk to you about and the thing that I want to talk to you about specifically with reflecting on stories started after my daughter was born back in March of 2017. And after she was born, I wanted to create something. I wanted to allow people who have given birth the space to reflect on the experience, and not in the typical way that we think in our culture where you're like, oh, what time did you go to the hospital, or what time did your water break, or how much did the baby weigh? And all of those things are important and absolutely wonderful details of the story and your journey. And there's this whole other thing that happens that goes on underneath that we don't always talk about. And that's the transition, that very quick transition from, baby being inside to baby being outside. And sometimes, let's be honest, the transition is longer than others. But that is the time when you become responsible for a human in a whole different way. And there's this whole big transition that your body goes through. And this absolutely 100% is whether you have a vaginal birth, whether you have a C-section or a planned C-section, doesn't matter. The reflecting on the birth experience has the same importance. And the reason that I feel like this is the case is because anytime we go through such a big thing in life, and anytime we even go through smaller things in life, sometimes we create stories about those things to kind of like almost neatly file them away and make meaning of them. And sometimes we don't get a complete picture of the story that really happened, or it's a story that no longer serves us. Sometimes we carry a story, or we make a story about if a birth wasn't exactly what you planned or imagined or wanted, or if you are missing out on some of the successes that happened, or the victories, or the happiness. All of these things can get lost in the shuffle as we make this huge transition from pregnant person to parent. And we can get so caught up in the responsibilities of having one or more newborns that we absolutely gloss over the looking into what our personal experience was, because this is about us too, and not just the baby. The baby is absolutely part of the story as well. And this can also apply in situations where there were losses. Our experience also really matters. And the stories that we create from that matter. And so I wanted to be able to create a space where people can maybe uncover the stories they were telling themselves, because sometimes we're not even aware of the stories that we're telling ourselves. So not only uncover the stories, but also be able to possibly retell them. If those stories aren't serving you, is there a way to be able to start to shift them, or to use some different wording, or to find a different highlight in the story? And so the tool that I created, and there are obviously all sorts of ways that people can do this practice, but that's why I wrote Birth Story Brave, which is the guide. It's a series of questions that I wrote for people who give birth to be able to have that space, a non-judgmental, compassionate space for all types of births, to be able to reflect on their experience and kind of create a new story to move forward with. And it's a really lovely, powerful way to reflect. So for those of you who are curious, Birth Story Brave is available on my website in a digital format. It's a PDF file, but you get two. One is fillable and one is printable. And that version is LGBT plus affirming. It doesn't use the word mama. However, the version that's for sale on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle does use the word mama. So it's an important distinction to make that can certainly be meaningful to lots of people. So those are both available, and I wholeheartedly believe in the value of pausing, of taking the space to tell your story, to reflect on your story, to rewrite your story. And I would love to hear from you. My website is nestingspacellc.com, and you can either contact me through there or nestingspacellc@gmail. And I would love to hear from you. If you feel comfortable sharing publicly in the comments, tell me about your story. Tell me about what you learned from reflecting on it and what you discovered. And until then, happy exploring.